And we are back for yet another episode of Behind the Lens. Welcome. I'm Debbie Lynn Elias, film critic. Many of you know me, moviesharkdoublour.com, and a few papers here, there, everywhere, and online in the U.S. and abroad. But every Monday you can find me right here on Adrenaline Radio, live with Behind the Lens. We're in the midst of Oscar season. We're counting it down. Just a couple weeks to go. Yesterday we had the BAFTA Awards. A lot of surprises there that just opened up the Oscar field really for Best Picture. Odds are now it could Best Picture could go to The Revenant, which picked up the BAFTA, or Big Short or Spotlight, which picked up some Guild Awards. So it's going to be interesting as we move towards the last Sunday in February. It was a big day overall for The Revenant at BAFTA yesterday. Emmanuel Chivo Lubezki, one of my favorites, picked up another BAFTA for cinematography. Several weeks ago, you heard clips of my exclusive interview with Chivo talking about The Revenant and shooting with that Alexa 65 and all natural lighting. And anyone who hasn't seen The Revenant, please go see it. I can't recommend it highly enough. Another film I can't recommend highly enough is Carol. And for all you Oscar voters out there, you have till the 23rd of February to vote. For all you Spirit Award Film Independent members out there, you have until tomorrow, the 16th, to vote for the Spirit Awards, of which Carol and The Revenant are contending, especially Carol. Carol, I am just... No, The Revenant is not. I'm looking at my notes. I have so many notes here, guys. It's not even funny. But Carol, I think, has a good shot to pick up some awards at the Spirits. So if you haven't seen it, please try. It is still in theaters. And we're going to hear shortly from costume designer Sandy Powell. You know, last year we heard from Sandy Powell talking about Cinderella, for which she is nominated for an Oscar. She is vying against herself for her work in Carol. And I had a chance to sit down and speak with her several times this year, as well as moderate some Q&As with her, Ed Lockman, and screenwriter Phyllis Naj. So this is a film that has become very dear to my heart. And in tune with costume design and Carol, our guest at 11:30 today is an incredible woman, Susan Claassen. She does a one-woman show, A Conversation with Edith Head. And trust me, when you see her, and all of my TCM Party peeps out there and TCM fans will recognize Susan's take on Edie immediately. Her one-woman show is amazing. She works with some Hollywood costume houses with some significant pieces from the golden age of Hollywood, and does a full Edith Head commentary. As many of you may know, Edith had 35 Academy Award nominations for costume design, 8 wins. Sandy Powell, who we're going to hear from shortly, Sandy has 12 nominations, 3 wins. Her closest contemporary is Colleen Atwood, another favorite of mine. And Colleen has 10 nominations and I think 3 wins. So this is an exciting year for costume design. Jackie West with The Revenant, Courtney Hoffman with The Hateful Eight. Unfortunately, Courtney did not get an Oscar nomination. But then a costumer who did get a nomination is Paco Delgado for The Danish Girl, as well as Jenny Beavan for Mad Max Fury Road, which won the BAFTA yesterday. So we're going to talk with Susan about costuming, about Edith Head. But before we get Susan at the half-hour mark, returning again, one of our favorite directors, the visionary Timur Bekmambetov. Many of you know Timur for Wanted, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, last summer's surprise hit Unfriended. He is currently in post-production on Ben-Hur, which We've heard tidbits throughout the year. Timur is no stranger to Behind the Lens. We have been privileged enough to have him as a guest several times already. But he's back this time for an exciting new project that he and his company are doing with as a tie-in with South by Southwest. It's a great opportunity for young filmmakers, and we're going to be talking about Screenshare Filmmaking. Timur will be joining us at the quarter-hour mark. And this time he's not in Moscow. He's apparently in Los Angeles this time. So we're doing well. We get Timur from Italy, from Moscow. Now he's just in plain old L.A. But I will welcome Timur any way I can get him. And also today, we have the incredible, the big man on campus here at Adrenaline Radio. Steve is here as my sound engineer today. Brian is taken off today. So this is a real treat to have Steve here engineering the show. So anything that's wrong, it's his fault, just so you all know that. So let's get started with some Sandy Powell. As I said, Sandy's going up against herself for Oscars this year. And if you look at Carol and you look at Cinderella, the costuming couldn't be further. The differential couldn't be further from each other if you tried. In Cinderella, she introduced us to a new fabric, Umissima, and embellished gowns with over 10,000 Swarovski crystals, as well as working with Swarovski to develop that beautiful glass slipper. The embroidery on much of the men's costuming was done in 24 karat spun gold embroidery that she found seamstresses, embroiderers, craftsmen who could do that intricate work. And it paid off. She got the Oscar nomination. Go to the flip side, and the quiet, more subdued film of Carol, set in post-World War II with a 40s look in a 50s time, under the direction of Todd Haynes. It is truly magical when you look at the elegance of what she brings to the costume. And the costuming Carol is directly tied in with this. Is the synergy in Carol is something we don't see that often. The script, the cinematography, the costuming, and Judy Becker's production design are so interdependent and reliant upon one another to really bring out the emotion that we see unfolding between these two women, Carol and Therese, the object of each other's desires. So I had a chance to talk to Sandy and ask her, how do you go from Cinderella to Carol?
Because when I did this film, I thought it was really low-key. Having come from Cinderella, where it's in your face, the costumes, and I did this, and I thought it's really low-key. I thought it's really not going to get picked up as a costume film. It's going to be one of those because it's all low-key and it's not brightly colourful or anything. It is, But it is. I'm really thrilled that people are recognising it as it's a bit like when people don't recognise contemporary films as being costume films.
And again, Cinderella is already on DVD. Carol is still in theaters. I urge you to see them both. And Academy voters, it's a toss-up as to preference because the work in both is superb. But coming on board, Sandy is no stranger to working with director Todd Haynes. This is their third film together. You may remember her exquisite work in Far From Heaven, which with Julianne Moore, which was standout. Here it is equally standout, dressing Cate Blanchett, who she also dressed in Cinderella, I might add. So how did this project come to her? For Phyllis Naj, Phyllis actually knew the book author of The Price of Salt, Patricia Highsmith. Phyllis, it was more than a 10-year journey for her to see the film come to fruition and her screenplay take shape. But Sandy has a very funny anecdotal story to tell us how she got involved with Carol.
My first introduction to this wasn't the script and Todd. I actually read the book a few years ago. I found it by mistake in a station. I had some journeys to do and I had nothing to read and I wanted a book, and the only things there were, it was a little station in the UK, were Stephen King novels. And I saw this thing, Patricia Highsmith book, and I thought, I've never read Patricia Highsmith, expecting a thriller. Heard she's good, I'll read it. And I read this book and it just blew me away, and I thought, this has to be a film. This book, this story has to be a film. And I even had a director in mind. I thought it's a Todd Haynes film or a Neil Jordan film. They're the two guys that could. cut to a couple of years later, I'm having dinner with Liz Carlson, who's a friend, hadn't seen each other for ages. I said, what are you up to? And she said, well, I've got the rights to this book. Carol, I said, you're kidding me. I've got to do it. I want to do it. And she already had the rights, and she already had Kate Blanchett attached with another director.
Well, once you have Kate Blanchett attached, how could you...
Another director. I said, okay, I'm doing it. I don't care how much money you've got, I'll do it. So that was it. It was already, I kind of knew I really wanted to do this film, so it was already in the back of my head. I wasn't thinking about how it would be done. And then, miracle of miracles, Todd came on board. So it was like the perfect combination. Mm-hmm. So I knew from the beginning that it wasn't going to be 50s like Far From Heaven. You know, I mean, and everybody, I think most people are expecting Carol to be Far From Heaven Part 2, and it's not, of course. It's going to be completely different. It's set in the real world. You know, it's set in the real world, not a heightened world. So, so sitting down talking with Todd about it, and then Todd, like in all his projects, provides very, very detailed reference images, like beautiful images. I mean, just like scrapbooks of images that are in his head and how he wants to shoot it and colours and ideas. And so a lot of that comes from that kind of subliminally. You know, I'm looking at things which might be street scenes, which might be an empty street with traffic lights and rain. As we talked a lot about the characters, and I can't remember what the question was, but we talked about how Carol would be, wealthy, middle class, fashionable, but not extravagant. Fashionable in a very sort of very tasteful way, understated. But you could see her wealth. And then Therese is she's impoverished in that she was a student not long ago. Right. I mean, in the original book, I think she's a stage designer.
Yes, she's a
production designer, a photographer, didn't they? But it's that sort of studenty, but a little bit arty. Probably hangs out in Greenwich Village and with hipster, not quite beatnik, but it's that sort of look.
Yeah, the book was definitely more. You got a more bohemian sense.
Yeah, you did. So I still refer to the book as a bohemian, but not self-consciously fashionable by any means. It's sort of practical and comfortable. I mean, she has a look, but it's not, And I was worried that actually her looks, and Todd really liked the very simple things. He liked a white shirt with a pinafore dress and really down. I think, maybe she's looking too boring, but actually I think it's really great. It's a really good contrast with Carol, and then of course that developed into her own style later towards the end.
And developing into style within a film is typically very important when you are dealing with an emotional drama such as a Carol. And you do see the character Therese is played by Rooney Mara, and you do see her character growing and morphing and becoming more confident. And the costuming does reflect that. With a period piece like this, you've got to ask Sandy Powell, do you go with vintage clothes or do you custom make and design specifically for the film?
Most of it is vintage, luckily. And because, like I said before, if I was doing this film in the UK, it would be a lot harder because there's a lot less available now, being much more the country, whereas this country you still find a lot of 50s clothing. And there are the rental companies that we go to. And so I went and pulled lots of vintage clothing and pulled specific shapes and looks for different characters and tried that on. And where it works, like a lot of Therese, most of Therese's things are real. And then the things I can't find, if I want a specific shape or a specific colour, we built, like her suit at the end and some of her skirts. Kate's stuff is probably mostly built. No, probably half vintage pieces, like the coats are all real. The fur coat we made.
That's beautiful.
Out of vintage fur, I hasten to add, in case anybody gets upset.
Yes.
It was made out of, old fur coats cut up and put together again because I wanted that particular colour in that particular shape. Made a lot of her things because, again, I wanted specific colours, specific shapes, and she's not a 1950s shape. I mean, size. I mean, she's taller.
Yeah.
And broader.
And we'll hear a little bit later about that mink coat that Sandy just referenced, because it is a stunner. And anybody in Los Angeles, if you have gone to some of the ArcLight theaters over the past couple months or down to the Fashion Institute, you've been able to see the coat on display. And it truly is, when she talks about creating something luxurious, she truly has created something luxurious. So I think right now we should take a short break in anticipation of Timur calling in, and we'll be right back.
Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com.
And we are back, anxiously awaiting. Ah, and I understand. Our phone is lighting up. This must be Timur. And it is. It is. I am so thrilled. Hello, Timur Bekmambetov.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you very much, Debbie. I'm good.
I am so. This is such a
Are
treat.
you online?
We are live.
Oh, good.
We are live, so everybody can hear about. When Rachel emailed me about this new Screenshare Cinema initiative that you've started in conjunction with South by Southwest, and she said, "You want to talk to Timur about it?" I'm like, "Absolutely." This is an exciting opportunity for young filmmakers. Can you tell us about what this is? I read through everything on your website about it, and it's very exciting.
It will be the 7 days workshop and panel during the South by Southwest Festival, where we will invite 4 teams from the country to be there and to learn how to make screen capture movies. And we will invite our filmmakers who made Unfriended a year ago, and they will teach people the language they learn. And at the same time, there will be another 4 teams all around the world. They will participate online and will have the same experience. They will learn, and they will make a short. The idea is that during these 7 days to produce 7, 8 shots in different genres, but using the screen share filmmaking.
And oh,
yeah.
go ahead, Timur. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, and we will learn. We will teach. We will learn ourselves, because it's a very new language, and we're still learning things.
Well, something I find interesting, I was reading your manifesto about what Screenshare Filmmaking is, and the movie language basics. And some of the basics, unity of place, unity of time, unity of sound, they seem very simple. But then when you look at them, especially because the intent here is not just use one digital device, one phone, one iPad. This is using a meld of them, much as you did in Unfriended, correct?
Yes. It sounds easy because it sounds very familiar and relatable, but to make this kind of movie needs a lot of experience, and it's 2 types of experience. First of all, you need to know and you need to understand how we communicate online, because there is a dialogue, there is a conflict, there is even action when we're online. We're very active, and there's a lot of drama in it, but it looks different. It has a very different presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Like for example, when you're waiting for somebody else's message, and you see the small line saying the dots, animated dots, and sign pending. It's a suspense. It's a suspense. It's you don't know what will happen, and it's a new type of the suspense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one from one hand. You need to embrace, and you need to know the world of internet, the world of computer. But at the same time, you need to know the traditional storytelling rules, because it doesn't matter how different it is. It's still storytelling. It's still the relationship between characters. It's still creating unique characters and unique tell unique stories. That's what we are going to learn and to teach people.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know Leo did this very beautifully with Unfriended last year, and everything was done in real time. Is that one of the prongs that this new kind of filmmaking, this Screenshare Filmmaking, will things be unfolding in real time? Is that part of the dialogue?
Yes, it is now. You know, the rules exist only to break it, and it's, for now, this is what we discovered and what we did, and for now, these are the rules for us. But I'm sure the 8 new filmmakers who will make their first movies during this workshop in Austin, they will destroy this rule, and we will come up with something new, and of course there is no rules. Of course.
Well, you are one of the champions of rule breaking with what you have done over the years, especially with Day Watch, Night Watch. I mean, you pushed the envelope so far with that. And it doesn't surprise me at all that here you are spearheading something like Screenshare Filmmaking.
Yeah, we are happy because we were the first who tested the water, and we were the first who understood that this is a new opportunity for all of us, because I'm spending more time online than in physical world, and it's my life, and I want to tell stories about this part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we cannot understand it yet, but I'm sure in the next few years we will see the kind of like a revolution, because people will try to tell stories about their front of the screen reality.
Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll be. This doesn't change. It doesn't change the core. I mean, the core of the filmmaking. It still will be stories. Still will be visual, and the rhythm and characters and all the elements are the same, but they just look different.
Now, with this new style of filmmaking, this very verite on the multi-digital platforms at the same time, sound becomes very, very important. We heard that in Unfriended. Will you be helping, because it goes beyond regular sound of just holding a boom mic somewhere or putting a lav on somebody. This gets more intricate. As part of the workshop, will you be working with these young filmmakers and helping them with the technical proficiency of sound design, melding the sounds, and the different quality of sound you get from different devices?
Yes. It's an interesting question, because we understood that the sound in screen capture movies sound has a different rules. Sound work, because we're not dealing with the physical world. We're dealing with the representation of the physical world in our speakers of our computers, and of course it was a mix. It was a mix of the sound effects produced by a computer, something we recorded and put it there. In the music, for example, in Unfriended, there was no scores. The music we had, it was music, the character playing on his computer. And there's a lot of music, but this music coming from Spotify, from different websites, and from his music library, from iTunes, and even the mix, is interesting because computer has a function. When somebody's calling you, the music goes away automatically, and we imitated this language to mix the sound, because it's like a computer automatically mixing the sound itself.
Now I know you.
We're just trying. Now it's just beginning, and in the first few movies we were just trying to recreate the world of our screen life. And now we're producing a movie called Withered of OS. It's a movie about the young girl. She lost her desktop homepage, and trying to get back to her homepage. And the whole story, it's a Withered of Oz, but told on the computer screen. Because today, to lose our data, to lose our accounts, and it means to lose our friends and relationships and all our past. And it's the whole story about the girls going back, trying to reconstruct her world, resurrect her world, and it's a fantasy, and it's very different. It's not like an Unfriended where we were dealing with the real world. This is a fantasy world, fantasy world based on the computer reality.
As somebody who has lost some of their data in the past, that's so much a reality.
Yes, it is. It's a nightmare. I cannot even. I mean, it's just so scary. Can you imagine that suddenly you lost all your friends and letters and pictures, and it's scary. And then the whole movie will be about this young girl trying to, with her three friends as usual, to trying to come back and find herself.
Now, how can filmmakers apply? Because I know there's a deadline of, February 24th or 26th for them to apply.
Yes.
They can go to, where do they go to apply?
They go on the website, and there is a form. They can fill the form and be elected. Now,
is any filmmaker, or are you trying to keep this to younger filmmakers?
No, anyone who feels that he wants to tell stories by sharing the screen with the world.
And they can go to ScreenShareFilms.com.
Yes.
Now, you have a film that's going to be showing at South by, do you not?
Where? During the festival?
Yes.
We have another movie called Hardcore Henry. We will present in Austin, and it's very different animal. It's a first-person POV action, sci-fi, crazy movie. It's very innovative. It's a whole movie shot from the main character point of view on GoPro camera, and with a Charlotte Copley playing 10 characters, and it's something. It's another experiment.
Oh, you and your experiments, and I love every single one.
It's why we make movies. It's what makes it fun to make. Just every time, if you don't know how to tell this story organically, how to do it technically. This kind of project, it makes you feel encouraging. It's encouraging you.
Well, you give me such great joy with the films that you make, and I can't wait to see how this new Screenshare Filmmaking takes off and goes to the next level after Unfriended. And I know you and I are going to be talking later this year about Ben-Hur.
Yes, it's August. In August, we will meet our audience.
And you and I will actually get to sit down in face to face and talk about it this time.
Yes, we should. we should. We must.
Timur, I can't thank you enough for joining me today, and I'm very exciting about this. So I can't wait to see how it works.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Timur. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was the fabulous visionary, innovator, Timur Bekmambetov. And now we have another fabulous visionary of fashion. The wonderful Susan Claassen is here. Are you there, Susan?
Great to speak with you.
Oh, I am so excited to have you on the show. You and I have been plotting this for a while.
We have, and what a perfect time. 2 weeks before the Academy Awards.
Oh, my God, the day after BAFTA Awards.
Yes, did you see Sandy Powell's homage?
I did.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Well, Sandy is just so fabulous. I mean, this has been a great year for me with Sandy. You know, she and Colleen Atwood are really the strongest contemporary costume designers we have.
I think so, too. They're just... And I think they follow what Edith Head's philosophy is, that the costume should indeed further the narrative. And I think both of them capture that beautifully in their designs.
I mean, it's, and to look at Sandy competing against herself with Cinderella and Carol, you couldn't have two films that are more different.
Exactly.
And it just it shows the great range. But something that Sandy does that Edie was also known for was dressing men.
Yes. As Edith said, she often preferred men to women. And her last Academy Award was for The Sting, and that was interesting because it was the first time in the history of the Academy Awards that a Best Costume Design Oscar went to a film with no female star.
Well, there was nothing wrong with the two male stars she was dressing in that film.
Exactly. As she said, can you imagine dressing or undressing the two most handsome men in Hollywood, Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and then getting the Oscar?
That just is amazing. Absolutely. And here, in both of the films that Sandy Powell is nominated for this year, she's dressing Cate Blanchett in both of them.
I know, and she's perfect. She understands Kate's silhouette and to an incredible advantage. It's just beautiful.
Now, have you seen some of the other costume nominees this year, such as The Revenant, Jackie West with The Revenant?
I've only seen the costumes. I haven't seen the film, but she followed something that Edith learned from Travis Banton. When in doubt, trim and fur.
Well, and Courtney Hoffman, who did not get a nomination, went with the fur with Hateful Eight as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Trumbo. I mean, those were perfectly designed costumes.
What Daniel Orlandi did with Trumbo, especially with the design of all of Helen Mirren's hats in her role as Hedda Hopper. I mean,
although Edith Head and Hedda Hopper were like oil and water. Hedda Hopper once put Edith on her list of Hollywood's worst dressed women. Yeah, it was quite a blow to Edith. But as Edith said, when she's standing behind a big star fitting a fabulous gown, she doesn't want to be the eye catcher. She wears very simple suits, and she must fade into the background.
And that's something that you do with your one-woman show, a conversation with Edith Head. I mean, you blew my mind last year at Stage LA.
That was such fun. I had it's such a privilege to keep Edith Head's legacy alive, because although she died in 1981, she is consistently, if you look at the 10 top red carpet dresses, what she designed for Grace Kelly 1954 when Grace was nominated for the Country Girl, it's always in the top 10.
I mean,
and her designs are as contemporary as today.
Yeah.
There are many things you could go out in today, and so many designers give tribute to Edith. So aside from being a marvelous designer, as she says, she was a better diplomat than a designer, working 60 years in such an ego-driven business, never walking off a set. Those are extraordinary things. And she was an executive woman before there was such a thing.
I mean,
her record will probably go unbroken. Sandy's catching up a little bit, but
and Colleen
there
Atwood.
are no studio designers today. So
I mean, Colleen has 3 Oscars. Sandy has 3 Oscars. Sandy's got the 12 nominations. Colleen has 10. Nobody comes close. Even back in Edith's day, Jean-Louis, I think he only didn't even compare.
No. Well, nobody lasted as long. And, for the first 21 years of the Academy Awards, there was no category for costume design.
And so
she worked tirelessly. And then after it was, there were 2 up until 1967. So some years, like for 51, for the 1950 films, Edith won 2 for black and white, for All About Eve, and for color for Samson and Delilah.
Yeah, and that's something. It's a testament to Edith's costume design, because her fashions looked as beautiful in black and white and aided the story and the character as much there as they did in color.
Yeah. They decided to do Roman Holiday in black and white because, it was so stunning, and they didn't want Rome. It was one of the first films, I think it might have been the first film ever shot entirely in Rome. Yeah, and they didn't want the gorgeous, Rome to upstage, so they shot in black and white, and it was just as absolutely stunning in black and white.
That's something that I think a lot of costumers today, they don't take into consideration. Something I loved about Courtney Hoffman this year and what she did with Hateful Eight is her research was so flawless, and she really went for authenticity. Kurt Russell's coat, bison coat, that was real bison fur.
Yeah, I think that's something also that resonates deeply with Edith. She loved the directors that required that, and the ones like Cecil B. DeMille, who never did an authentic picture in his entire life. She had very little use for. Like she said with Samson and Delilah, he decided he wanted the peacock feathers. Well, she said she didn't know if they had peacocks in Mesopotamia, but she drew the sketch, and of course it's absolutely stunning. And Hedy Lamarr looked absolutely magnificent in that cape made of peacock feathers, but there was very little authenticity in it.
Do you, as intimately as you know Edith Head and the history of Hollywood costume, does it please you when you have designers like Colleen Atwood, like Sandy Powell, like a Jackie West or a Courtney Hoffman that really just dig into authenticity.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it, and I feel that it really honors the world of cinema when you do that. And I think they are exquisite that way. Yes, there are some contemporary things that can be shopped without a doubt. But something like Carol, which every silhouette is perfect for the 1950s, is perfect for the characters. You look at that person, you look at Carol, and you know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, as Edith said, there were three magicians in Hollywood. It's costume, and it's hair, and it's makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the magic of the cinema come alive in a film like that, or, you know, in The Danish Girl, certainly, in all of the nominated films.
Oh, Paco Delgado has done a beautiful job with The Danish Girl. And how good does Eddie Redmayne look in these costumes?
Perfect. He looks perfect, and no, there was virtually, right, to what I have researched, no padding whatsoever. It was just the cut and the drape and where things were pleated.
And
so that's pretty exciting also.
Yeah, and that's what I love about looking at the costumes this year. I think this year, more than most years, the below the line, the behind the lens, the production values on the films are at an all-time high. When you look at the costuming, you look at the cinematography, you look at the hair and makeup. And each film is just so distinctive and speaks and tells its own story with all of these interwoven pieces of the tapestry.
I think so. And didn't you put that just beautifully for costuming? Interwoven with the tapestry.
I try.
Love that.
I try, Susan. But mentioning Eddie Redmayne in The Danish Girl and Paco's fashions. You mentioned the pleats and the draping. That is something. That's the one film we really do see a lot of the pleating and the draping. We don't see that in Carol. We don't see that in Cinderella. Cinderella is pure fantasy, gorgeous fantasy. Yeah. And definitely we don't see pleating and draping when we get into The Revenant and The Hateful Eight.
Right.
And even in Trumbo, because of being the golden age, we see more structure, especially the beautiful, beautiful gown that Orlando designed for Helen Mirren, the floor length with the sequin trim on it. That was on display at the ArcLight here, and I got to see it up close and personal.
Oh, how great.
My heart almost stopped.
It's fun to see, Paramount has restored 35, 40 of Edith Head's costumes, and they actually have gone to the El Paso Museum of Art, and then also in Lancaster, Ohio. And when you look inside and you see how these costumes were made, the detail, how beautifully they were sewn. Betsy Potter, do you know Betsy? Betsy did the restoration for Paramount, for Randall Throp when they were doing this, and it's so great to see.
I mean, it's interesting because when I talked to Colleen Atwood about Into the Woods, she had mentioned that, she's gone into, clothing shops because for the longest time, Hollywood, it got to the point they didn't care about costumes. It's like, make it as cheap and as fast as you can, as many as you can. She said, and then I start going into some secondhand stores and I'm finding some of my costumes on the racks being sold as secondhand because studios were just discarding things. And I think it's such a travesty because we do have these beautiful, beautiful designs from the past, and Debbie Reynolds was the only one really trying to preserve and care for things. And
things were sent back in Edith's day. Why there are so few originals left? It's things were recut. They were sent back to Western Costume. They were recut. They were reused in a film. A little thing was changed here. and it wasn't valued as an art form.
Mm-hmm.
And as we know, with the great, Deborah's great, Hollywood costume and all these other, even couture, they're doing wonders for membership at museums.
Mm-hmm.
People are understanding the value of costuming.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find some Edith also did fashion shows all the time where they were recreations. And she would go into a town and have society models, and she and June Van Dyke would do these all over the country. So you'll find some of those that are recreations. I own about 7 costumes that are original.
Only
but
7?
None of the iconic, the things that are on my set are reproductions of the great Elizabeth Taylor dress from A Place in the Sun, and of course the Betty Davis, where that was an interesting and all about Eve. Edith only designed for Betty Davis. In those days, of course, every studio had their own designer, so Charles Lemaire was a 20th Century Fox. But Edith maneuvered to get Betty to request her.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also a trick she learned, where it's trimmed in the sable. But when I show the costume, because it was black and white, a lot of people think the dress was black.
Mm-hmm.
But it was brown, because that color brown photographs magnificently in black and white. So each stage of really the stages of Hollywood cinematography can be traced in costuming. The minute that sound came in, costumes had to change also because of what fabric did for the noise. The rustle of this, which they didn't have in silent films. So it's all very fascinating from a costuming, and I love introing films of what to look for, how. And Edith actually was the person, in the 60s when the Academy Awards were first being aired on TV. She was the fashion consultant backstage to make sure everything would pass the censors.
Boy, we need her
now.
now.
I have a copy of her letter, if you want to hear it, from 1968 that she sent.
Oh, I would love to hear it, Susan.
So she sent this on March 25th, 1968. We in the Academy are delighted to have it know that you will appear on our 40th awards presentation on telecast Monday, April 8th. However, so many questions have been asked about the style of dress expected on stage that I send you this information. Actresses are requested to wear formal evening gowns, either maxi or floor length, preferably pastel shades, since the setting is very formal and done entirely in white and gold. As you know, long dresses, no mini or day length, are more graceful on stage and on camera in this type of background. The Academy feels that the dignity of this traditional affair on our 40th anniversary deserves formal dress. Men are expected to wear a white tie with conventional formal evening accessories. Cordially, Edith Head, costume supervisor.
Oh, my God. That is fabulous.
Isn't it?
Fabulous. I mean,
Yeah.
there are some people that could really use that memo today.
I think so, too.
With
kind of the dignity of the Academy Award.
And I think that's something that we've lost over the years. It was considered to be the creme de la creme, the height of dignity. And I think we've lost some of that over the decades.
I do, too. Once it became about, the show rather than the work, I think we lost. The first was, 1929?
Yep.
And 15 were given out, and it was at the Roosevelt Hotel. And you know what the cost of a ticket was?
Oh, I know it was very inexpensive.
$5.
Well, actually, that was a
I've
lot
got
in 1929, but
Right.
I mean,
And the ceremony, the length of the ceremony,
it was,
15 minutes.
yeah.
So,
It just, to see how it's become this billion-dollar industry.
yeah.
And we do lose sight of, now with the whole diversity issue that's been raised, which I still think this year is ridiculous. I mean, it's about performance. It's about the best of the best, be it costume, be it cinematography, be it sound, be it performance. It's the best of the best.
Right.
And not everybody can be the best of the best.
Right. Right.
You know.
I mean, that's definitely, what it was, and it should be, and should always be.
Mm-hmm.
And with the campaigns and with, all of that goes on, it becomes, just a marketplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
so
course.
it's interesting because Edith really would be backstage, and she had a crew of people. So if more was showing than was possible, so it wouldn't be centered out, she would have to stick a bunch of flowers down a cleavage or anything like that before people went on, because as it is today, of course, it's live.
I mean, we had no wardrobe malfunctions then.
No, Edith wouldn't allow that
No.
to happen.
No, sometimes
No,
I
she
wish
would
that...
never. And there were no stylists.
Mm-hmm.
If your stars were going out, the studio would send them down to Edith or to an Ori Kelly or to a Jean-Louis, and they would design whatever they would wear. I have more people when we, do the show come, and even if they were contract players, they would say, and she hasn't been gone that long that there aren't people around who knew her and worked directly with her, and people would come up and bring photographs of them with Edith.
Aww.
Or they would say, we were going out on a date, and Edith said, come down, let me dress you. So those are such charming. Everywhere I go and do the show, there is someone who worked directly with Edith. It's just, like Mike and Marion Westmore. The Westmores, his office was right next to Edith at Universal.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I did the show in L.A., I knew they were coming, and I had done my research. And Marion had been a model for Edith, and she was wearing a wedding dress, and Mike saw her, fell in love, and they've been married ever since. And the famous House of Westmore continues on. So they've seen the show probably 3 or 4 times, which is, it's so touching and just is such a privilege when we have people who knew her or young designers who come and say, hearing Edith's story gives me the confidence and the faith to continue on. And people who are in any profession, just that Edith really followed a dream of hers. If you look at what she accomplished, she was the original brander, right?
Absolutely.
If there were blogs today, as there were, she would have been the blogger, because at any given time she was syndicated in at least 35 magazines or newspapers, giving advice, and she felt the secrets that she knew she should be able to share with the world. And she did that through the Art Linkletter show, and again these, and also patterns that she did for Vogue and Butterick.
I still have some Edith Head Vogue patterns.
Yay!
I actually made some of those very patterns.
Well, you're going to have to wear it next time we do the show in your area and you come.
Well, I really hope that what is the show schedule? Because your conversation with Edith Head is just fabulous.
Well, the next thing we're doing is actually more of a fashion show appearance, which I do because it has integrity with what Edith did.
Sure.
And this we're doing in Paradise Valley on Thursday, which Robert Black, who's a wonderful vintage collector, and we've done many events together, is pulling together some homages to Edith's great designs and some of her greatest stars that she dressed. We'll be in Solana Beach in August, and many other things in the work. So we love doing it. I think it will be in Tucson in the fall. So, and it's just such a wonderful experience. And people, I've been doing the show in varying forms for 12 years.
Well,
and they said, don't you tire of doing we must have done probably 250, 300 performances. And it's no, because everyone is different, because I answer questions.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be time appropriate, but oftentimes when we're in LA, I'll get a question sent back saying, Miss Head, I was a tram driver for the Universal Studios tour in 1974. Do you remember me? And also, I'll have the guy stand up and say, oh, yes, I do. You had that distinctive little beep, beep, beep that I always loved. And so, and she would, she knew how to work a crowd. If she heard that, she would casually grab an Oscar or a sketch pad and go out and wave to the people. So she really was a household name, and the Costume Designers Guild loves it because she put a face onto what a costume designer does.
Well, Susan, I'm getting the signal here that we have to wrap. Our time is up. This has been the most enjoyable half hour I've ever had.
Me too. I just loved it.
Oh, you have to come back on the show again.
Anytime. You are an absolute delight, and thank you for all your support. I so appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Susan. I'll talk to you soon.
Great. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that was the fabulous Susan Claassen talking Edith Head, Hollywood costume. Yes, Steve, I hear you. I hear you. So, we're signing off. Next week, we'll hear more audio clips from Oscar nominees.